really simple agenda today. We haven't got too long, and it is a topic we could talk about at length. I'm going to give you a quick introduction to us at Positive Planet and what we do, a little bit of background on myself. Talk to you about the benefits of sustainable business, and they do lead into that return on sustainable investment as we would talk about it. So I'll talk you through some of those. And then how you get that return on investment, and hopefully a significant return on investment. That 100 times is what we're seeing. An increasing amount of our clients start to realize from their sustainability program. So I'll talk to you about how we're getting that. We put one case study in. There's links to others on our website that's in here as well. We haven't got all of them on yet. We just changed our website. So we're always worth having a chat with us. There is a meeting invite later on in the presentation for me. So if you do want to have a chat about how we can help you specifically in your business, I'll talk you through that as well. And then, as Billy said, a chance for some questions at the end. So I'm Stephen. I'm the co-founder of Positive Planet. I've been involved in sustainability now for about 10 years. Worked with some really large corporates, with a couple of companies I consulted and worked with previously, like Aston Martin, Tyrrell's Crisps, the guys that make Henry Hoover, and a lot of small business as well. So at Positive Planet, we work with organizations of all sizes. I launched Positive Planet without him because we felt that nobody was really providing what was a sort of one-stop shop, and that simple solution that allowed small to medium-sized businesses particularly, and larger ones as well, to move through the various steps that you needed to take to achieve net zero. So there was lots of different services available, but they're all really fragmented, and we offer that all under one roof. My background's largely in sales and marketing and senior leadership roles across multiple sectors, but particularly in technology, telecoms, and energy efficiency. That whole focus on sales and marketing is one of the things that I bring to bear in sustainability. And that's what really interests me as well. I really see it as a sort of green revolution coming at the minute, and sustainability offers huge opportunity for business that embraces that. And it's something I see on a day-to-day basis at work. I really strongly believe that business has a massive role to play in the whole transition to net zero. I think with one of the sort of key, the pivotal parts of that process. And that's because we can influence the people at work. You can influence your wider stakeholder groups, such as your clients, your customers, and the marketplace you operate in as well. So there's real leadership opportunities there. And I think some businesses are doing that really well. We've got some an example of that as we go through. My connection details are on there, by the way. So if anybody does want to contact me directly, or please connect on LinkedIn. We don't do the hard sales push, so you won't be bombarded or anything, but always really good to connect with people and happy to help where I can. A bit about us. I sort of touched on what we do, but we are that sort of full services, one-stop shop for an organization. So I see us very much as an outsourced sustainability team. One of the real points of advantage that we bring is the people, and you'll see some of the team, they're doing some community engagement activity. We're not normally lying around in wheelbarrows and things, but it is that people piece. Sustainability throws up a lot of questions for most organizations. And a lot of companies struggle if they don't have that external expertise and support. And there's some alarming statistics around failure rate of sustainability programs, with about 98% of them reported to not achieve the stated goals, aims, and objectives. And that's a massive shift to the companies that work with us, where we see nearly 9 out of 10 achieving those goals in a really short space of time as well. So it is that bit about that hands-on support and help that we bring really makes a difference in terms of success or fail to your projects. And that's the reason why about 500 companies at the moment choose us to support them on the sustainability journey. We do work with organizations of all shapes and sizes across all sectors. I've got everything from one-man bands, startups, right up to some of the more well-known brands you can see on the logos here. So likes of Brewdog, Man Trucks, who are part of the VW Group, Tesco, obviously well-known names to people, as is probably something like Chester Zoo. But a lot of large to medium-sized companies, and right down to some really small ones as well. And we try to price in a way that makes it affordable and accessible for organizations to start taking action as well. And we work in a very modular way, so you can just start small and then build up over time. It doesn't have to be a significant upfront cost for the work that you need to do. Businesses choose us because we help them accelerate that process and simplify the process of achieving their sustainability goals. We're big on then that climate leadership piece, and that's both at supporting at a board level and more widely how you do that as an organization. And the outcome of that is that businesses realize competitive benefits when they work with us. And it's one of the things I'm really focused on in that sales process and an initial engagement with you as a client is how we help you get that return on investment. What's in this for you? What are the drivers, the benefits, the opportunities for you? We are really that one-stop shop for all of your needs. So our services are categorized across 5 different areas around measurement and auditing of your carbon footprint. So giving you an accurate view of your emissions, which you can then use to guide and measure your overall impact in terms of reduction activity. And we can support you through simple carbon reduction plans, and they can be quite short term, or all the way out to a full net zero strategy, which may plot out an ideal path towards a 2050 to 2040 type deadline. We also support around compliance with a number of frameworks, so anything from things like PPN 0621 for public procurement, right through to things like SBTI and some of the other legislative frameworks that are starting to crop up with increasing frequency. We also support you around engagement. This is really important, and we see this as a really critical part of the success path, is making sure that you have the right skills within your organization, and that's right across things like your board, your green team, other specific roles within the organization, such as finance, marketing, procurement, and generally right across your organization as well. And that could be anything from carbon literacy training right through to bespoke workshops within your organization that we provide. And the final piece, and again, a really important part, is how you communicate. And that's both internally to drive that change, but externally as well. It's really valuable in terms of, one, keeping you honest and on track, but there's some real big rewards in terms of demonstrating that you're aligned with key stakeholders, with your clients, etc. So impact reports are something I'll come to a bit later on, but they're a really good way of credibly sharing what you've done, what you're going to do, and aligning that with your clients, your customers, to win new business. So what are the benefits of sustainable business? I've broken these out into 3 areas. The first one, and probably the one that most of you are keen to know about, is those financial benefits. And they come from a number of different ways. There's some opportunities to get leaner, greener, and cleaner here, and see some benefits just from being more efficient, doing things in a better way, or actually just reducing some of the consumption and some of the things you do. So less waste in processes or the way you operate your business. We also see, and are starting to see, more movement in a marketplace towards both lenders and investors favoring business that have taken steps to be more sustainable, have really strong ESG credentials. So that can be realized both in terms of loans from high street banks and across things like, if you are looking to get private equity investment, or you're coming towards the end of that process and you're looking for some sort of exit, you will find that ESG criteria and certainly environmental sustainability are a really good way of demonstrating that you've got strong governance within your business. That can lead towards increased sales, reduced costs, better efficiency within your business, all of which contributes to greater profitability and that better access and easier access to finance and sometimes preferential rates. There's a big brand and marketing advantage as well, and there's some risk around this done badly, and I'm sure you see an increasing amounts of stories in the news about greenwashing and companies being held up to account for the claims that they're making around the sustainability actions. And this is where it's really important that you work with somebody that can support you and help you with how you message that. It's becoming increasingly important to both consumers and businesses. Research says that 8 out of 10 of us make sustainable decisions in the procurement process. And we're seeing on a B2B level, where you're going through a bid process, tenders, or applying to doing some sort of presentation to try and win new business, sustainability criteria become an increasing factor. And we've seen this move in the last few years from being sort of single-digit percentages in some bids to now becoming 30, and even I've got 40%. I think it's Leeds Council are starting to put 40% against ESG type criteria in their bids. So we're going to see more of that. I think, you know, everyone I speak to, every business is saying we're seeing that in that bid process. Being able to do that well, articulate that well, can really help and support with just helping you stand out from the crowd in that process. Again, if you're looking to investors and other stakeholders, like attracting talent, it can be really important. 75% of the workforce in the next 4 years will be millennials, and 40% of those will take a lower salary to work for a purpose-driven company. And we're starting to see that really come through in the marketplace, where people are wanting to work for brands and businesses that have common shared values with them and are doing the right thing. We've got great case studies about organizations we've worked with where when they've embraced sustainability, it improves employee satisfaction or those stakeholder relations. And it is a great way of just building brand reputation or gaining some sort of competitive advantage. Also really useful around resilience as well and future-proofing your business. You know, a lot of organizations have seen risk in the supply chain over the last few years coming out of COVID, other factors that have happened, be that environmental or things like Suez Canal that happened, which impacted supply chains. So companies are starting to bring that closer to home. They're starting to mitigate the risk around that and balance that. You know, and there's certain countries in the world, if you are procuring from those countries where they're at serious risk of things like flooding in the future, and looking at potential mass migrations out of those countries where it could impact workforce, could impact supply. So, you know, we've seen this across both mainland Europe and further afield as well, happening in real time right now. So how do you calculate that return on sustainable investment? So this is a term we've coined, and we have a really simple way of measuring that at the minute. And we just look at your investment with us at Positive Planet. We also would look at maybe some of the other investment costs that you might need to make alongside that as well. And we would measure that against things like your business cost savings and the benefits realized. Now, typically, I'm seeing at least 2 times return on sustainable investment for really simple people-based service type office-based businesses. If you have products and services where you are bidding and tendering, if you are in a B2C type environment, retail, anything like that, we're starting to see much higher return investment, and that can be well over 100 for some organizations. And I've got clients who spent, you know, relatively small amounts with us, low thousands of pounds, and they have seen, you know, significant increases in turnover exceeding £1 million within a short space of time. And by that, I'm talking about a sort of 12-month window. So you can see huge opportunity if you get this right and can message it the right way and be seen to have done the right thing. As a guidance, how do you get those return investment? And I've just put a few simple things that we see organizations doing, but just on that cost saving efficiency through reduced waste, water usage, energy consumption, traveling less. So becoming conscious about the things that you do on a day-to-day basis within the organization. We typically see somewhere between a 1 to 3 times return investment for no cost outlay on a really short payback period. So that, you know, if you're spending a relatively small amount of money with us, that focus on efficiency and improved activity, more sustainable ways of working, gives you an immediate payback on those fees. There's some other things that I think are probably more common and known to some of you on the call, but things like retrofitting LED lighting, installing renewables. Really difficult for us to put a cost against that on the call here today. We can help and support that. We have a partner network of providers we work with for any of those services, and they can give you quotes and an estimated payback. Typically, I'm seeing that on about 3 years on LED lighting with a 3 times ROI. We're seeing a longer payback on renewables, but still about a 10% return on investment. And then switching to EVs is increasingly popular, and that's getting about a 1.5 times ROI with about a 3-year payback. So within that typical lease period, we see that delivering both business benefit and employee benefit as well. The big win, as I touched on earlier, is that winning and retaining clients and customers. And we've got, I can tell you, some really interesting stories about clients that had been at risk of losing business, and we're seeing things like sales pipeline dry up, and that was things that had hit them really out of the blue. You know, they'd been broadsided by competitor action where they'd been demonstrating that they're taking sustainable action, and that had started to really have some market benefit for them, and they were having to react and respond to that. So risk of losing clients, risk of losing sales, real business impact, but the opportunity to win new business is really significant, and it's one of the things that we do really well, is supporting in things like that bid process, giving the tools you need to articulate what you're doing really well and win your business off the back of it. And as I say, if you've got a specific sector you want to talk to us about, we can help you build out that case for action and show you what that ROI could look like for you specifically within your organization. And don't just take our word for it. So some great research about 3 years ago, I think it was, from the NYU Stern Center, across 71,000 products, so pretty extensive, demonstrated that those that were marketed as sustainable grew nearly 6 times faster than those that aren't. And that's backed up by Unilever, whose sustainable living brands delivered 75% of their growth and grew 7 times faster than the rest of the portfolio. Brewdog's one of our clients, as I said earlier, I think it was 2-3 years ago, they launched Lost Lager, and that delivered 70% of their growth, and that's their most sustainable and branded as being a sustainable product within their range. So how do you get there? Well, I've broken this out into a very simplified 9-point plan. Some of these things can be mixed up in order and things like that. You don't have to follow this exact sort of process, but certainly the elements in here are the things that we would recommend doing. So start with a kind of why. What are your key drivers for doing this? What are your impact goals for your program? Where do you think you're going to get the benefits from? So start to understand that. And that's something we'll help you with. If you want that initial strategy conversation, we can help you pull together some of the things that are on this page here at no cost. Outline what your strategy is going to be, what steps you're going to take. And that needs to be around things like measurement of carbon emissions as a great starting point, building up that reduction plan and net zero roadmap. How do I train and upskill my team to deliver this change? And then this annual impact report, which I'll show an example of, is a great way of just communicating externally and internally about the things that you've done, what you're going to do, and the impact of those actions. And it's a really good way of keeping you on track internally as well. We find organizations that commit publicly to action, deliver on that, and keep their program on track. You need to look at the cost of implementation on your program, and look at the return investment. And that's just a great way of getting that business buy-in around your wider sustainability program. Other things you might want to start doing that early phase, get a green team together. If you haven't done that already, get some enthusiastic volunteers across the organization who can champion sustainability and drive that change. And really good to provide training to that team as well, that make sure they've got the knowledge to back up and they feel confident having those conversations and what could be with some people quite difficult discussions as well. That wider training piece across the organization can be really helpful. So engaging people, empowering them. Carbon literacy training is a great way of doing that. And it's a great way of team building as well and just bringing people together. It's a really fun day. And then doing that across your leadership team. Towards the end of my career, and I've spent a lot of time in senior leadership roles, and I've always been focused on running a business with the same sort of metrics around how do we drive sales, how do we increase profit. Sustainability wasn't a factor in that. So, you shouldn't be embarrassed as a business leader if you don't feel you have those sustainability skills. And that's one of the things we can support with, is giving you the necessary skills and understanding, embedding sustainability in your strategy, and making sure that you're all on track, all aligned rather, as a leadership team to pull in the same direction. But integrating sustainability into your business strategy is critical to getting to keeping that plan on track and making sure that you don't fall, your sustainability actions don't fall by the wayside, or you don't make bad decisions as well. You also need to consider your risks. I touched on this before. 98% of programs fail if you manage those internally without proper help, support, understanding, training, etc. So all the things I've mentioned above. Integrating your strategy, I just touched on, great way of getting on track. You're probably going to need some help with that. And again, it's something we do, but how can you get that support that you need? Can you get it through non-execs, board advisory, etc., or an external partner such as us? And then finally, you want to make sure that you've got your plan, that you communicate it out transparently, through something like, sorry, that's the wrong title in there, but it should be something like an annual impact report going out is a great way of doing that. What does that look like in terms of an implementation? So first year could be something like this, that you've got some strategic planning, initially leadership advisory training, getting that green team set up and some wider training across the organization before you jump into things like measurement, reduction planning. And we find some clients sort of move this around and do some of that measurement and a bit first, then they do training. So interchangeable, but those are the things we would recommend is plotting out something like this within that first 12 months. Quick case study. Phoebus are a software company that we've been working with now for about 3 years. Just to give you a sense, they've got 143 employees and 25 million annual revenue. They work in financial services sector, providing a sort of customer service type software and document management. They had a push on sustainability because of investor requirements, one needing to be aligned in terms of supporting investor around measurement, but also around building better businesses because their investor North Edge knows that that's good for future value. And they also needed to be aligned with their client group as well, who typically in that financial services sector, ESG is either something that's regulated and mandated, or that they are certainly talking about, if not doing always very well. Our solution was we've been supporting them across the 3 years with everything from carbon emission measurement through to reduction planning. We've helped them put that net zero strategy in place. We do an annual impact report, and I'll show you an example of that in a minute. We provided them with training, and they also are part of our Positive Planet, our new certified accreditation as well. They've made some massive strides in terms of emission reduction in that 3 years. So just to give you a sense of what's possible, their emissions have come down by 68%. So, you know, service-based, office-based business, often difficult to find those gains, but they've managed to make really big impact by making lots of small changes around the organization and getting people engaged. The impact of that is that they're seeing huge return investment from new customer acquisition. That impact report's really useful in their sales and marketing activity, and it's one of the things that, you know, has just pivoted their conversation a bit away from a kind of solution-led approach to more of being engaged on a brand values level with clients as well. So the link to the wider case studies there if you want to connect through and see that. These are the impact reports that we do. You can see really attractive, fully branded documents that we can create wholly in-house for you. And that can be anything from just on environmental impact to a fully wider ESG report, as Phoebus do here. Some lovely comments from Kate, just saying about how easy it is to work with us and how useful it is to have that external expertise and support. We've got some other case studies you can link through to, so please take a look at those. You might find some that's relevant to your organisation sector. If not, do get in touch with myself or Billy, and we can help either discuss something or provide you with something that's more relevant. And time for questions, about 5 minutes left. So I will hand over to Billy. If you do want to connect with me, you can either use the QR code here, by the way, or the link which allows you to book a meeting directly into my diary at a time to suit our joint availability. So thank you.
Lovely stuff. Cheers, Stephen. Lots of valuable insights there and some great points around that case study at the end too. We don't have some time for questions at the end, like Stephen just said. If you feel free unmuting your mic, just raise your hand. I can unmute that for you. If you would more like just add it to the Q&A and it can be a little bit anonymous, anything like that, feel free. I will get the ball rolling, Stephen. In terms of kind of legislation coming down the pipeline, you know, is this something that's always going to hold business opportunities, or is it going to be a case of businesses need to act fast to harness these before they have to take action?
I think there's two separate things here. I think one, you know, that there is a finite amount of time on both of those points in terms of one, bit more businesses starting to take action around being sustainable, and that's starting to cascade down already from large organizations, and we've seen this recently with Tesco, most of the major supermarkets, Jaguar Land Rover I can think of, AstraZeneca in pharmaceutical space, putting some requirements on their supply chain to become more sustainable. And that's because of the way the carbon accounting process works. So for most businesses, somewhere between 70 and 90% of their carbon footprint sits in what we call scope 3 and sits with their supply chain. So the only way to get to net zero for these big organizations is to demand that their suppliers take action themselves and move at the sort of in line with the pace that they want to achieve to get to their net zero goals. So we've seen that coming out in some pretty heavy-handed mandates out of those big companies. That's starting to have an impact. So the opportunity for competitive advantage from this is going to minimize over time as more businesses take action. I think from a legislative perspective, we're seeing that landscape change very quickly. 200 bits of new legislation across the EU last year. We saw the US implement sustainability legislation around net zero policy. We're starting to see it becoming something that is a requirement if you were looking to export goods, import goods in certain cases as well. And just it's going to be a factor of doing business, I think, for everybody.
Well, that's great stuff. And just on employee engagement, what role do you think that will play in the success of kind of driving profitability with your sustainability piece?
I mean, if you don't get people involved in any change program, they fail, you know, and that sustainability programs aren't unique in failing. I think they have some challenges that I think because of a lack of understanding, general bad management is sometimes in the way that they are handled, and that's inadvertently. Things like business as usual. You know, we looked about a year ago and realized we hadn't done anything for about 12 months because we've been focused on growing, doing other things. So we hadn't done some of the internal things that we'd laid out in our plan. So, you know, we had to take some really quick action. So it is, I understand those challenges of not doing something because other business activity gets in the way. But I think having people involved and engaged in that is really important. You know, having that green team, making them accountable into the leadership team, having some of those key metrics across, you know, normal business, government, management are really important just to keep things on track. But the employee engagement piece is just absolutely critical, but it's a knowledge thing as well as just, you know, sort of getting people involved. They need to have the skills. So training is really important in that.